Welcome to BNOW, where we discuss what is happening in and around Brampton. Tonight, we have Martin Medeiros, who is a regional councillor for Ward 3 and 4, and we're expecting Pat Fortini, regional councillor for Ward 7 and 8. Mr. Pat Fortini is late, so we have Martin Medeiros. Thank you, Martin, for joining us.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to be here with you.
So, Martin, we're going to start off with you. I know that Pat eventually will come on if he figures out how to work his computer. We'll go from there. We're going to talk about the February letter. That's something that we talked about. A lot of residents have talked about it in regards to the CAO. You had mentioned that local democracy was under siege. You wrote a letter, basically sent it out to the media outlets saying that certain senior staff, we know now it was the CAO that you were talking about, had taken a blowtorch to the rules. There was no specifics given in regards to those rules. And you further on down state that damaging allegations of wrongdoing in contract procurements, investigations of improper hiring, practices, concerns, and over discrimination. And Brampton is under siege. A lot of people don't know about what was going on behind the scenes. There was in-camera meetings. We aren't privy to that. We don't know what was going on. David Barrick, we found out, was the target of this letter. He'd been in the position for 3.5 years. Why now, when you have an election coming up in about 10 weeks and you're just moving out of COVID, why now is it so important for 6 councillors to say, David Barrick, we do not want you here?
Well, just and thank you. So just to provide some context, yes, we can't get into sort of details of an in-camera meeting, but I think it was a culmination of numerous ongoings at the city, which was publicly reported. If you recall, going back to a couple of years ago, where the freedom of information was removed from the city's clerk's office arbitrarily, not to our knowledge as a council, and that ready. And for those who do not know what freedom of information is, it's essentially allows, be it a resident or be it media, to get information, access to information on any issues pertaining to the city of Brampton. And there's a process. And usually the reason why it's in the city clerk's office, and it's a standard practice across all municipalities, and I do recognize Councillor Vicente, who did bring that forward, that it was brought into the CAO's office without a lot of our knowledge, many councillors. So that started off an onset of different sort of items which were really concerning, notwithstanding you had a whistleblower investigation. And again, when we go to what the investigation was, and to be very clear, there was some serious allegations of wrongdoings, and whatever has been reported in the media is out there in public realm. And a decision, we had hired a consultant company, and I'm one of the councillors that were quite frustrated where this company that we did hire did not speak to an interim report, because again, after many weeks of investigation and many reports provided by the consultants, it was clear that in terms of jurisdiction, in terms of oversight and the information which was pouring in, they would need much more time to get to certain conclusions. And I would remind folks that as part of a public process, when you call in the Ontario Ombudsman to do an investigation in certain items, they usually require that you do go through your own means of some form of investigation. And so regardless of what the outcome was, it allowed us to satisfy one of those requirements to then be able to go to the Ombudsman to bring them in. So coupled with...
So let me just stop you there, Martin. I'm going to bring in Pat Fortini. He's finally clicked in. Pat, how are you doing tonight?
Good, thank you. I'm sorry. I was having a hard time getting on. I'm fine.
That's okay. You're good now. So we're just talking to Martin about the letter that was posted on February the 8th. Martin mentioned the Ombudsman report, but he was cleared in that report. There was no allegations that said he did any wrongdoing.
No, let me be clear. We're not referring to an Ombudsman investigation. What I was saying is that as part of the investigation that was being led at the city of Brampton, The investigation was a means to satisfy for you to call the ombudsman to look at those serious allegations which were raised by the whistleblower. Before you can call the Ontario Ombudsman, they require that you do your investigation. Then fast forward to our budget process, which I myself made my comments quite clear on some of the financial practices which were being sought to achieve an end result of what was ultimately a zero. And then notwithstanding a reminder of the Brampton Board of Trade and their severe criticism of our budget process. And I did make the comment at the time that was probably one of the most disappointing budget processes, notwithstanding in technical studies and preparation and numerous dubious information
All
which
right,
was shared.
so let me just stop you there, Martin.
But if I can just proceed,
Okay.
Then there was concerns by several councillors regarding a COVID event, a COVID New Year's Eve, where not one jurisdiction across the GTA continued with a COVID New Year's Eve levy or New Year's Eve party celebration, New Year's Eve, where you had a lot of people, councillors expressed concern. And so it was a pattern of change that was required, and notwithstanding staff and a lot of concerns. So I'm not going to specify to the in camera, but ultimately one respects council when council makes a decision, when majority of council makes a decision to proceed in one avenue, and a lot of times they may be avenues which I don't support, but you respect council's will, as you respect council's will when council feels that it's necessary to make any changes and move the city forward. So going back to the letter.
So let me stop you there, Martin, because the CEO is responsible for basically ensuring that the city's policies and programs are implemented. Did he do that?
Well, I won't speak to if the policies and programs, what his duty. What I will say is that to move the city forward, council felt that changes had to be made. And getting back to the letter that you cited specifically and why a group of councillors decided to write a letter, in terms of process, one understands that you play within a set of rules which are outlined by the Municipal Act and which are outlined by our rules of procedure at the City of Brampton. When those rules are not being respected and are being used in a manner which should not be used, a group of councillors, which are a majority of council, wanted to bring attention to it because simply you were not allowed to follow the right process. It's like you're playing a soccer game and your team just takes the ball away when they're losing, or you're playing a hockey game and all of a sudden what you thought were penalties are no longer penalties and what were rules. So, that continued. But I do want to recognize that all of council decided to move the city forward. So unanimous group of councillors. Okay. So when you talked about 6, a decision was made following where it was a unanimous decision. I got to recognize all of council coming together to move the city forward.
So let me ask Pat here, because basically, we're talking about the CAO and his record. You had 4 zero tax freezes on the city. You maintained a Standard & Poor's AAA credit rating for 6 consecutive years. Number 13 on Maclean's list for best communities 2021 in Canada. Ranked as one of the Forbes best employers in 2021. You've got numerous awards in regards to the Distinguished Budget Presentation Award from the Government Finance Association. That's 2 years running on that one. It seems to me, the CEO was doing what he was supposed to be doing for 3.5 years. And in your letter, you mentioned for 3.5 years, he was taking a blowtorch to democracy. Where am I missing something here, Pat?
I think you must have read the letter that we all received. So I'm going to go back to the part where the budget is. The budget, you go online, it tells you one thing. We got a binder with hardly no pages in, and they kept adding things. When it came over to the infrastructure, we did a zero tax increase for the last 4 years. One was only 3 were done by him. The other one was done by the other CEO. But when we get the infrastructure, William Parkway, Tor Brown, they decided not to do these roads. So what happens is now the money was put aside, which I put that motion for towards the hospital at the time. I don't even know if the money for the hospital will be enough. We need $125 million, but moving the money around, saying that we don't need it, it's all to stop infrastructure. That was not the right way to do it. And so, the budget was pretty disaster compared to what we've seen in the past and at the region. And there was a lot of misinformation. And you had the Brampton Board of Trades. They all came in and said, the guy said that after all those years, he's been around, and he said this has been the worst one. And we all agreed. So like Councillor Medeiros said, this wasn't done by only one councillor, 3 councillors, 6 councillors. Everyone at the end came together and they came to an agreement. Yes, it's time to move on.
Okay, so you've decided, let's say the whole council decided to move on from David Barrick, which is fine. That's your decision. I don't know what's going on in camera. Nobody does know, and then we have to take the word on what we see and what we hear. And there is speculation, but that's speculation, and that's not what we're talking about right now. So going forward, let's say Paul Morrison was put in charge. He has no financial background, so I don't know what his credentials are. I'm not going to speak to those. I don't know the man that well, and I'm not going to speak to them. You guys decide to put him in charge, which is fine. How long is this going to take? Are you going to wait till the new council, after October, or are you going to have him in an interim position right now and stay there until the new council decides to hire a new CEO?
Well, that's what we kind of looks like we're going to decide. It's not sense moving people around every 3 months. That's not stable for a city or for any business. So I guess when the new council comes along and, if he's doing a good job and they want to keep him, and that's fine. If they don't, it's a decision of council. And he could go back to his job, and we thank him for all the hard work he's done. So that's something we'll have to wait to see. Some of us might not even be there. And at the end, at this moment, looking at these when you do a budget, it's not only the city manager does the budget. He gets all these groups together and every department, commissioners. And we heard in the last 2 budgets, no one was called in and together to work on this budget. It was only done by 3 people. So it was pretty disappointing, because usually you will call a commission on public works or bylaws, and everyone has a little input. They sit around and they create this budget.
So let me ask, before Martin's got to go, I know you have a town hall yourself, Martin, in your wards. You're talking with city staff about upcoming things. You can actually give it a link after if people want to go at 7 o'clock. But why did you approve the budget then? If you guys don't know what's going on in the budget and you looked at it and you said, okay, well, the Brampton Board of Trade doesn't like it and there's too many missing things. I know I go through the budget. I'm probably the only citizen, or probably one of them that goes through the entire budget, and line items have been a problem since Mayor Fennell, right? There's been a line item of X amount, but no breakdown on how far it goes. And that's Brampton Board of Trade has been complaining about that for years and years, about there's no further breakdown. There's just one number. So why did you approve the budget if you didn't, you looked at it and you said it's no good?
So let's be clear. So when you're talking about, you referenced, I guess, what 6 councillors did regarding decision making at the city, and then we moved forward as a council, and I appreciate that. I guess you keep focusing on what the CAO is. I think it's important that when we look at building the confidence in the city, building staff feel that they have opportunity. When you look at, for example, and I won't speak to, you want to hope that anyone who was hired at the city went through proper process, that they're are accredited, that they have the credentials to do their job. But I wouldn't want to focus on why the decision to move on. And the decision to move on, effectively, in my mind, and I will speak to my mind, there are things that you can't overlook, where just, for example, you talked about the FOI process, which I referenced, where you talked about whistleblower. The question I would say to you is, why didn't council at the time make the serious decision that you had to make when an FOI, if you find any municipality that a CAO removed an FOI from the city's clerk's office without council approval, I would challenge you to say that the CAO continues in that position. I would challenge you to say that during a whistleblower, serious allegations, which texts were revealed, publicized in the media, why weren't decisions made then? So I would invite you, and I would invite those councillors, for why didn't they make decisions then to clean up things that should have been cleaned up? So at the end of the day, you want to be able to go to an election, and you reference the election, and rightfully so. And I think many people are going to have to stand up and owe to the fact, why did they perceive and allow things to continue the way they were? Feedback I got from my colleagues, and I say this respectfully, was exactly what you've just tried to portray. Let's not rock the boat. Let's keep things, just wait for the election. Well, at the end of the day, you can't turn a blind eye to where you think the city is going off the cliff. You can't turn a blind eye where you see countless and countless of allegations. And I'm not suggesting by all means that every allegation was correct. What I am suggesting is that there is clear in my mind for the city to move forward in a transparent and accountable way, for the ability, for example, for us to be able to come here and be confident that A, our numbers for the budget is correct, B, our staff are doing the right thing, C, decision making, the information we receive. You know, the one thing I will say, one of the challenges I've had in this term of council is you don't know what you don't know. So if a staff person gives me a number, if a staff person gives me the reason why they're doing something, if staff are treating every councillor the same and they don't get into these cliques, you know, one thing I would tell you, it's very concerning for a municipality when you have, for example, a group of 6 councillors on one side and a group of 5 councillors on the other side. So the question I would say to you is, you know, what happened from there to where we are now? And this is not the way that you want to run a council. You want to have a council that's united. You want to have a council that is moving forward with the municipality, always with the focus of residents and the well-being of the city of Brampton.
All right, so we'll get into that later. I'd like to have you back on that, Martin, because number one, I'm not a councillor. I don't sit in the council rooms. I don't sit in the in-cameras. I don't know whose clique is whose and everything else. The only thing I'm sitting at on the sidelines as a resident and taxpayer, I want to see a well-run city and make sure my tax dollars are spent on the best possible way, right? That's what I'm trying to impart, because most of the people that are watching on a regular basis, they want their snow cleared, they want their garbage picked up, they want to make sure this stuff happens. There's all sorts of little minutiae that happens.
Don, you just hit on something. What I want to say, you just hit on something that is you can't be more correct. Look at council meetings. How many times have you saw the focus be on snow removal, on road repavement, on park, the quality of the city, and just look at the services for us to achieve. And this is the crust of where I think Councillor Fortini, who is a lot more experienced than I am. You go to our parks, you don't see the services. You don't see the city as clean as it used to be. You don't see the focus of staff. We're running off trying to be the Ministry of Education, trying to be the Ministry of Environment. We're doing everything off. We talk a great game, but the implementation and servicing and in quality of services that we have at the city, in my mind, had a lot to be desired. So I know Councillor Fortini is very passionate on that. I want to wish everyone a good night. I thank you very much. And I'm more than happy to come back anytime.
Great, because there's a lot of unanswered questions. I know leading up to the election, you can't be on a platform talking about city business, so you got about 10 weeks to talk about it. So, you know, there's a lot of unanswered questions for a lot of people. We're getting both sides from talking about different heads and different things. And, you know, it's hard to sort out sometimes for the average person, because they hear from this person, and then you don't know. So
and I would just ask, look at the facts and just look at information.
The facts can't be out there if you're in closed meeting, right? So that's the thing.
No,
right?
I would say that there's a pattern of stuff that's been in the public realm. So this is not like all news. Like for someone to sit here and sort of question, well, why did the city of Brampton do this? Well, then someone's been under a rock, because all the stuff that's come out at the city of Brampton is not normal. This is not.
Are you saying I've been under a rock, Martin?
No, I would never say that. I would say I myself. So I do appreciate this different perspectives of views, but I do want to recognize Councillor Fortini, who's been a champion on, you know, Councillor Fortini represents someone with integrity, someone who's always done the right thing. And, you know, certainly I'm very proud to serve my time. And I want to thank you, Don. You know, from day one, I know you guys have always done a great job back to when it was Neighborhood Watch and Brampton Focus, and you guys always bring a focus on the city of Brampton. So I thank you for the
service. We're trying to bring a good focus on the city of Brampton, because for years and years it was a bad focus, and you know, we want to bring all the good stuff. So there's a lot of good stuff happening, and we want to highlight that. So
yeah, thank you so much.
It's something that you have to talk about. I can't dodge the issue, but thank you very much, and we want to have you back and we talk about the different things that you talked about. But if people want to follow you at 7 o'clock, where do they go to talk to your?
They can go on my Facebook page, and it's about Peel Region. It's about the regional budget, which is a lot of people sometimes focus on the city of Brampton budget, but the region of Peel's budget makes up 40% of our budget at the city.
Yeah, it's very important. So thank you very much, Martin. We'll see you next time. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Have a good day, Martin.
All right, Pat. So I don't want to dwell on that. There's a few things going on
I have a couple of things, and he was right. Like, you know, all these councillors. At the end of the day, when you look at the budget and stuff, and we see these things, and people are texting each other and saying, hey, it's election year. Let's not do this. Let's not raise the taxes. The tax levy on the hospital is one of them. Like, we've been fighting these hospitals for years. Now we have a chance. We got 1.1 billion. I understand we don't get the seats we deserve, but it's a start. We have to come up with a portion. Let's move on. So those are the motions I brought forward. We got surplus lands we could look into sell. We got all these infrastructures that we didn't do, like William Parkway and Torbram. We had over, with the interest in all this, 21.1 million saved from the tax levy from last, when we had the tax levy last time. So when we put all that together, if we're short that 20-30 million, we have to do a tax levy.
All right.
We
So
do a hospital, regardless.
All right. So, Pat, we're not done with you yet because we want to have you back on. But there's a certain thing that I want to talk to you about. I know it's in your ward. I did mention to Charmaine Williams, who's the city councillor, to come on and talk about it, but I never heard back from her. You're the regional councillor for Ward 7 and 8. Emerald Hills.
Yeah.
That's a project that you want to talk about. It's a high density around the old Canadian Tire building. That's a Canadian Tire building now, Bramley and Steeles Road. It's quite a big development, and the GO station is just on the left-hand side. That's the new GO station parking lot. North of that is two apartment buildings that are already there. They've been there for I think it was 6 or 8 years they've been put up there.
One of them, that's Medallion. Yes.
Medallion, yeah.
Yep. So,
and they were full. People signed up for those, and they were in there no problem. They didn't have any problem selling those buildings. There they are right now. Those are the
so if you look at these buildings here, keep going a little bit up. There's another application coming just right there, right where you are now at the end. There's going to be another 8, 9, 10 story where that pole is, 10 story. Across the street, you got the Bank of Montreal.
Right.
This Medallion purchased that property. They're putting a couple of buildings there. And where Brampton Hardware Floor is, that's been sold. I just had a meeting today with a new owner. He's planning to put 2 buildings there. So it's an area where people can actually rent or buy a condo. You got GO Transit right there. The Canadian Tires are all coming together. And you can't ask for a better area where you can pick the train.
I was hearing there was an online blog saying that basically, there was no citizens, asked for, because the city has asked for an MZO on that. They've gone directly to the Ontario government, asked for a municipal zoning order to bypass any kind of EA or whatever. And I'm thinking there was an online blog saying, well, the citizens weren't, the residents around that area were consulted. Well, there are no residents. You got to way north of Steeles and Bramley before you get any neighborhood. And if you go to the other side, you got to go all the way over to Malton.
Yeah, and this is where I can understand some MZOs, and people are doing the MZOs. Look, we're shortage of homes. People cannot buy homes anymore. We need the condos. It's to cut a lot of this red tape. We should have done an EMZO. That means we have no jurisdiction. It goes right to the province. But when you talk to the residents, you need residents. All these people got together. There is no homes there.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying.
You got the 410 there. You got the GO Transit there. So I have always said this from years ago. Why is it even the Canadian Tire lands? So the Canadian Tire land, there was a certain project coming out there years ago, and they kind of stopped it. They were worried about the contamination. So now we got all this good development coming there. It's not affecting anything. Everything's there. Steeles is there. Transit there. The highway there. They're going to put restaurants. People can't afford homes no more. Even a townhouse now, you need over $1 million.
I don't understand why anyone would be against this development in that area, especially because basically Brampton needs to be built up. And I know on George Street, you have residents on George Street complaining about another high-rise being built in the downtown core, which is, it's kind of hilarious because when that first building in George Street went up, all the residents around it complained to City Hall that they didn't want that condo tower up. Now all the people in the condo tower are whining and complaining and delegating to council saying, oh, we don't want another one next to us because it's going to shut our sunlight out and blah, blah, blah. It's like, first they want density there, and now they don't want density there. Then they want the downtown core built up, then they don't want it.
Yeah, well, Martin just left. He's chair plan and vice chair, and we get this problems all the time. They want development. They say we can't. We need affordable housing. We say people can't afford to buy a home. You get a 30-year-old couple. Let's say my daughter. To go spend $1,100,000 for a townhouse, you need $400,000 or $500,000 down payment. If they had that money, I think they were about 2 years ago when the prices were a lot cheaper. So we got to face the facts that these days now, not all these people could go out and buy a $1.5 or $1.8 million home unless it's your second home. So you going up other parts of the country like Europe, Germany, Italy, like that's the living now. We got to face the facts. The condo is going to be the next generation because we don't have it. So as soon as the development comes, everyone comes to complain they're blocking my light. There. Then you look at the land. So what's there? Well, it's 3 acres. Well, you can't keep that guy holding 3 acres because you want to keep the view.
I agree with you, Pat. I mean, it's a ridiculous scenario. It's like,
well, I get it if it's in someone's backyard. You look at your backyard and you see a high rise. I get. Well,
listen, people complained when they were building the new addition to the city hall that it was onto their backyard. So you're going to get people complaining, but at this time,
but Brampton's the worst. Yeah, because you go down to Toronto. I'm driving down Dufferin. You go out in Dufferin there near Lawrence. You come out. You're on the sidewalk. You got buildings. Vaughan, you got everywhere.
Yeah, exactly. I don't see
those people coming around because
and we want, like you want to build Brampton up. There's going to be you got to crack a few eggs to make an omelet, sort of thing, right?
Well, what about all these people sitting in the basement apartments? We got 40,000. They're complaining about that.
Well, not only that, but you want to bring the Rogers Communication downtown. You want to bring Guelph Humber University. You want to have. What's the other?
Guelph, let's hold on Guelph. We haven't approved nothing yet. So.
Okay, but I mean, you want to bring it, right? So you're bringing more people, but like you said, there's only a certain amount of land, and I don't understand the reason why even Queen Street they should have a whole bunch of.
Absolutely, like we get these truck stops all over the place. Yeah. People buy, they do the zoning, and I've always said to staff, guys, you can't stop zoning. I get it, we need it, but let's focus on more of the serious developers because these are the guys that want to build, they want to sell. It's a great thing that we're doing, but we got to say our planning department's been very good. They've been every developer you talk, they've been very helpful. We got a great planning department.
All right, so I want to have you back, Pat. We got a couple of minutes left. I want to talk about a few things. There's a free transit for seniors was announced today.
Yep, that way was announced today, and Mayor Brown, I know Councillor Dillon, they really pushed for it, and all the councillors were all excited. I know it's been over 2 years. That was the first thing I heard during the election. They have a list. Said, guys, provide 2 or 3 things that you really need, and that's what we push. When you got a long list, you get nothing. So they were all talking about transit, and this council came together and finally managed to get it done.
All right. So if they want to find out about it and what they need, they can go to the city website, and I'm sure they can get all the information, right?
Yep.
The other thing was Bill Davis Memorial, $150,000 was kicked in by the province. Where is that memorial going to be? Is it down Gage Park?
It's on Main Street. I think it's Gage Park. They said Main Street, so I don't know exactly if it's Gage Park, but it was announced today on Main Street. So, he was a legend for our city. The mayor talked really highly. Everyone today, like he's done so much for our city, Mr. Bill, Brampton, and what he's done for Bill, for our city. You can't ask for anything better.
Well, the mayor has a question for you. He's will you give Ingrid a raise? She is amazing. She is a treasure at City Hall.
She works even now. She's calling me. I had to block her. So she's always working.
You're blocking your secretary?
Well, because she is amazing. Yes.
All right. Okay. So you know what?
One, and I think she's planning to retire next year. And I said, you can't retire. You got to stay.
Yeah, she's got to stay as long as you stay, right?
One more term.
One more term. Okay. So here's the last question. I know Alan Thompson. He mentioned today that he's not running for mayor in the next coming election. He's been 19 years at the city of Caledon on council and as mayor. Any last words for Mayor Alan Thompson?
Yeah, like I guess everyone wants to move on, and when you do so many years of work, and wish him well. And it was shocking. I thought he was going to run, and I guess he wants to move on to better things. And we're not younger here, So once we hit a certain age, I think we should enjoy a little bit of our old age.
How old are you, Pat?
I just turned 62, so that's why one more term, and then I'm going to do the same thing as him and. Relax a bit. I retired once. I got bored and I came back.
Okay. So you know what? We want to talk to you further about this thing going on in Emerald Hills. We want to talk about what's going on in Gage Park and down on George Street for that development. And there's a whole bunch of other things that we want to talk about before the election. I know that you're going to be busy during that time. We have a provincial election coming up, so we're going to be covering on that. But I'd like to say thank you for coming on. It's been a long time. I think the last time we had Martin and you on was about 3 years ago.
At the studio.
Yeah, at the studio.
And I want to say, like, guys, you've done an amazing job in the past. You guys worked really hard, and that's why I said, it's really shameful that you couldn't have continue doing that. But you're doing good now, and anything we could do to support you, I'm always there.
Well, going forward, I mean, we have our own ideas of what we want to do. We still want to do cover what's going on in Brampton. Brampton doesn't have enough coverage.
Yeah.
As far as I'm concerned, we know all about the newspaper and our lack of coverage in regards. The only time it seems that City TV or CBC comes out here is when someone gets shot or run over, or some bad news around here.
We have a lot of theft and cars. Councillor Medeiros' car just got stolen. We had over 40 in the last month.
He got stolen.
Yeah, the Friday morning woke up, his vehicle was not there.
Well, maybe it was another councillor. Maybe it was Pat Sato.
Maybe he forgot at my house. So anyway, thank you so much. And anytime it'll be a pleasure to come back on.
All right. Well, Pat, thank you very much for joining us. I think Mayor Brown just said Pat doesn't look a day over 61. There you go, Pat. All right. Well, thank you for joining us. We'll be back next week at the same time, and we'll see you then. Thank you very much for joining us.